save the boy.
The Daniel Martell, the
He's
stepfather.
on meth.
He's on meth.
He sells meth. And he makes it. And he don't like the kids. He beats the kids. He beats her daughter.
That's why I'm
But her
saying.
daughter must know more than she's saying. I said, your daughter's lying. You must know what happens. Only 3 people in the state.
Exactly.
We had to do polygraph and everything.
You did a polygraph too?
Yeah, because we used to drop the kids off over there.
So you and Cindy and...
Daniel Martell was never just a stepfather. Not to Lily. Not to Jack. Not in the ways that matter. Behind the polite smiles and stage photos, behind the carefully curated social media posts, something far more sinister was unfolding. He exposed those children to something no child should ever breathe in: toxic fumes, unregulated chemicals, burn pits releasing black smoke in the dead of night. And for a long time, no one saw it. No school reports, no medical calls, no neighbor complaints that ever stuck. Because Daniel Martell knew how to keep it hidden, until he couldn't. Now the truth is coming out, and it's worse than anyone feared. What the RCMP found behind that cottage, the real backyard, the part fenced off with scrap metal and warning signs peeled off, it wasn't just suspicious. It was dangerous. Investigators discovered remnants of industrial solvents, melted plastic, scorched rubber, and a fire pit that had been used far too often for anything innocent. Forensic teams brought in air quality meters. The soil came back contaminated. Residue from burned materials matched chemicals known to cause hallucinations, respiratory distress, even neurological damage in children. But it's not just what was burned. It's how often, it's when, and it's what else was nearby when the burning happened. RCMP confirmed they recovered scorched clothing fibers, children's sizes, a half-melted toy, and tools, masks, gloves, cans with faded labels. The implications are horrifying, because what the evidence now suggests is this: Lily and Jack Sullivan weren't just neglected. They weren't just at risk. They were actively exposed to harm. Not once, not by accident, but repeatedly, deliberately, quietly, all behind a veil of domestic normalcy. All while Daniel Martell smiled for the camera, played the role, and told everyone the kids were just fine. They weren't. And the moment you know that, the moment you realize those children may have lived in fear, confusion, or even pain, the disappearance stops feeling random. It starts to feel inevitable. Because if the environment was already lethal, if they were already suffering exposure, and if someone felt the heat closing in, what lengths would they go to in order to make sure the truth never surfaced? The RCMP isn't saying everything, but they don't need to. The fire pit, the fumes, the tools, all of it paints one picture. Lily and Jack Sullivan were in danger, long before anyone noticed they were gone. It started with a neighbor's casual comment, an odd smell in the air, a mix of chemicals, scorched plastic and thick, acrid smoke drifting across yards late into the night. At first, no one thought much of it, just another backyard fire. Maybe someone burning leaves. But then it kept happening, week after week, always after dark, always in the same part of the Martell Sullivan property. Eventually, someone got closer, saw the pit, saw the flames, and saw Daniel Martell standing over with gloves, tools, and a bundle of scorched wiring. He wasn't burning garbage. He was stripping copper, illegally, by torching insulated electrical wire. Open flames. No ventilation, no protection, just feet away from the children's sandbox. That's not just reckless. That's toxic exposure. Burning PVC-insulated wire releases dioxins, hydrochloric acid, benzene, all known carcinogens, all dangerous to breathe, especially for small, developing lungs. RCMP environmental specialists later confirmed the air and soil in that yard were compromised. Contamination levels near the burn site exceeded residential safety limits. Residue collected from the grass, tree bark, and even children's toys tested positive for polyaromatic hydrocarbons and lead particulates. Lily and Jack weren't just near the danger. They lived in it, played in it, ate near it, slept near it, breathed it in, and still no reports were filed. No agency intervened, because no one saw the full picture. Until now. The neighbor's observation, dismissed for years, suddenly became the thread that unraveled the truth. Because once investigators knew what to look for, they found everything: photos, videos, toolkits, receipts for salvaged scrap copper, and GPS logs showing Martell frequenting abandoned construction sites late at night. He wasn't just a backyard burner. He was running an operation. And he didn't care who got hurt in the process. Toxic fumes, neurotoxic particles, long-term health consequences, and 2 children living in the middle of it all. This wasn't parenting. It wasn't survival. It was calculated neglect and environmental abuse. And when you realize how much Martell had to hide, you start to ask, what else was he willing to burn? What else was he willing to erase? And if those burn pits could speak, what secrets would they tell? Burning PVC insulation, like the kind found on scrap wire, releases dioxins, carcinogens, neurotoxins, chemicals that are not only toxic but persistent. They seep into soil, cling to skin and hair, settle in the lungs of anyone nearby. This was an accident. It wasn't a one-time error in judgment. It was regular, ongoing, a pattern of behavior Daniel Martell repeated, week after week, often in the evenings, sometimes in the early mornings, lighting up burn pits just feet from where Jack and Lily played. This wasn't trash disposal. It was copper stripping, melting plastic off valuable wire, likely for resale, and in the process, exposing 2 small children to toxic smoke. Smoke neighbors described as chemical, sharp, unnatural, sometimes drifting down the block. The smell was enough to make some shut their windows. But no one realized just how dangerous it was, or how close the children were to it all. Jack's toy trucks were found just meters from the burn area. Lily's chalk drawings still faintly marked the patio. These were not distant observers. They were in it, breathing it in every single time he lit those fires. RCMP Environmental Forensics now confirmed that residue consistent with chlorinated plastics was detected in soil samples behind the house. The same plastics used in household wiring. The same materials known to release highly toxic dioxins when burned. And Martell knew. He had done it before. Witnesses now say he even bragged about the clean copper he pulled. He understood the value, but he ignored the cost, not just to himself, but to the children under his care. This is what neglect looks like. Not screaming, not hitting, just quiet, repeated choices that endanger the innocent while pretending it's nothing. This is exposure. This is risk. This is what Jack and Lily were breathing before they vanished. And now, it's part of the investigation RCMP cannot ignore. RCMP didn't reveal this at first. Not to the public. Not to the press. But internal case files, now reviewed by forensic environmental specialists, confirm what many in the community had quietly feared for months. The backyard Daniel Martell controlled was more than just a cluttered space. It was a toxic zone. From that small suburban yard, RCMP sees a disturbing collection of evidence. Scorched metal shards, melted plastic residues, stripped wire casings, and rudimentary burn tools often associated with illegal copper recovery operations. These weren't the remnants of a backyard bonfire. They were byproducts of something darker. Repeated attempts to burn insulation off electrical wiring using open flames, releasing known carcinogens into the air. And all of this took place just feet from where Lily and Jack Sullivan played, ate, and spent their childhood days. Witnesses, neighbors who live in adjacent homes, told investigators they'd noticed the acrid smell for months. Bitter, chemical, like burnt plastic and rubber. They saw smoke drifting over fences at odd hours. Some even noted Martell wheeling out garbage bins late at night, full of char material. One neighbor described seeing him hunched over a smoldering fire pit with a respirator mask, while the children were nearby without one. RCMP's environmental crime team tested the soil around the burn site and found elevated levels of dioxins, furans, and other combustion byproducts linked to burning chlorinated plastics, especially PVC, the type commonly used in electrical insulation. Dioxins are not just toxic, they're some of the most dangerous industrial byproducts known to science. They're linked to cancer, immune system damage, and developmental problems in children. And then came the medical files. After cross-referencing pediatric records and statements from healthcare providers, investigators found what they now believe are early signs of environmental exposure in both children: chronic respiratory inflammation, persistent fatigue, unexplained skin and eye irritation. In isolation, these symptoms might have looked minor, but together, with the backyard burn evidence, they painted a harrowing picture. For years, those warning signs were dismissed, brushed off as seasonal allergies, childhood asthma, sensitive eyes. But now, with hard evidence in hand, the RCMP is reclassifying those symptoms not as coincidences, but as consequences. This isn't just about what happened the night Lily and Jack vanished. It's about what they were exposed to for months, maybe years, before that night. It's about a man who knowingly burned hazardous materials in a family space. And it's about a system that didn't ask the right questions until it was too late. Because this isn't just a disappearance case anymore. It's a case